这是菲律宾最大、最古老的女子监狱，所有女重犯最终都会被送到这里接受改造。
I was here since 2000, November.
他们住的地方拥挤、闷热又潮湿。
Most of the beds are for 4 persons, 2 up and 2 below.
连水工都匮乏。
This is how we fill our water.
在如此严峻的环境下，他们如何重塑新生？曼达卢勇士位于菲律宾马尼拉大都会的正中心。在这座富裕和贫困共存的城市里，有一座建于1931年的古老监狱，关押了来自菲律宾各地的女囚犯。他们涉及的罪案轻则偷窃，重则贩毒、杀人、帮派殴斗。监狱根据刑期，把他们分别关在最高、中等和一般警戒的3大监区。菲律宾各个省份刑期超过3年的女受刑人，最终都会由当地的监狱官押送到这里，服完他们剩余的刑期。抵达后，受刑人必须先接受安检，之后换上这里的囚服，量体重和身高。在办好入狱手续后，由长官带领到监狱的接待与诊断中心报到。接待与诊断中心位于最高警戒区一栋宿舍大楼的顶层，所有新来的受刑人一律必须在这里先待上60天，进行心理和身体检查，以及参与相关的改造计划后，再由长官评估，分配到个别监区。同时，他们也会在这里接受新生培训，帮助他们适应接下来的监狱生活。
The first lessons on discipline. If you check on them, they usually put their hands behind them, and also they are not permitted to go out of this area.
年纪轻轻的哈迪林，刚在1个半月前从外省的监狱转来这里。
Ako po si Heidi Lin. Kaya po ako nandito dahil sa falsification of public documents. Ang sentensya ko po is maximum of 5 years po.
哈迪林和另外103名新受刑人一起住在中心的大厅里。监狱发给每个人一个塑料箱，存放私人物品和1张草席。他们的个人和睡觉空间就在他们的塑料箱前面的地板，大约半米宽、3米长。
Go here in Manila, I have not lot of things. Just here, just one pillow, and this is my mat. This is donated by CIW. And this is my box. This is my sanitary napkins, toothpaste, and this is the soap. It is donated by the CIW also.
新受刑人的日常生活和惩教所为一般受刑人设定的日程相同，不过他们不能离开中心，也不能与外界联系。所有的饮食起居 都必须在中心内进行。在这段日子里，哈迪林已经慢慢适应了中心规律化的生活。
I normally have lunch at 11 a.m. We have toge with rice. I like the food here, but I miss the food outside and food at home.
其实，最叫哈迪林牵挂的是家乡里那年仅8岁的女儿和年迈的外婆。她被逮捕之后，就没有见过他们，只能期待离开中心后再和他们联系。
Siguro lagi kong inaalala na sana nasa mabuting kalagayan sila, hindi sila magkasakit, lalo na yung anak ko tsaka si Lola.
幸好，哈迪林在中心里很快就结识了一群谈得来的受刑人，让他在漫长的日子里也能感到一丝温暖。
Marami na rin po akong nakikilala dito. Tsaka parang maganda rin po kasi na magkaroon ka ng kaibigan. Kasi kahit papaano po, hindi ka po magiging malungkot.
“最高警戒区”是女子惩教所最大的监区，面积大约1万平方米。关押的都是刑期20年以上的重犯，他们的年龄介于19岁到100岁。
Okay, family, let us move na. Daily exercise na po. Prepare na. Stretching. Oh, do not laugh. Stretch like that. Okay.
最高警戒区里的居宿舍住着57名受刑人，每个早上，他们在宿舍长宾尔的带领下做早操。宾尔本身也是受刑人，在众舍友的推举下成为宿舍长。
My name is Bing. I'm 52 years of age. Nakakulong po ako last 1999 sa salang drugs po. Ang sentensya ko po ay reclusion perpetua.
居宿舍由11间房间组成，原本是监禁违规犯的隔离囚室，在关闭疫情期间，成为了监狱的隔离房。疫情过后改成集体宿舍。
This is my room. My room consists of 4 persons, 2 persons at my upper bed. And right now, I am all alone because my companion here just got released last August. In this dorm, each unit has its own bathroom. So, in my room, we do our bathing here, one by one, of course. Oh Lord, today, let me be like you. Teach me to
宾尔来自菲律宾中部的米沙烟群岛。父母在他年幼时死于非命，随后被送入孤儿院的他，辗转来到他阿姨家居住。中学毕业后，他未婚怀孕，相继生下1对子女。为了孩子，他勤奋工作，但一家人却也只能勉强糊口。所以，当有人要雇佣他跟另外2个人一起到马尼拉取货时，他欣然答应。
So at that time, dahil napakahirap din ng buhay, parang malaking pribilehiyo siya na naibigay sa amin opportunity na yun pala yung laman ng dala namin ay talagang ganon.
1999年9月，宾尔一行人按照指示飞往马尼拉。他们在接获行李箱后，搭乘计程车返回机场，途中却被巡警拦截了。
When that bag was opened, I was so shocked na ganun there was a lot of marijuana. It seems to me that it was at the end of the world already because I never expected it to happen to me.
当时，宾尔其实已经怀孕了，却浑然不知。直到她在牢里开始孕吐， 才发现自己怀了第3胎。
It was very hard, very, very hard. I don't even know kung paano, how to survive. At the time, friends out there even advised me to take medicines. And then, still, my decision come up na I have to push through with my pregnancy. Kasi I was so afraid that gagawa ka pa ng kasalanan.
2000年5月，冰儿顺利在医院产下儿子。2个星期后，她忍痛将宝宝交给男友，带回家乡，托付给阿姨照顾。
I cannot explain the pain, of course. Ang pain niya, ang hurt niya is greater compared sa time na I was being bashed with that incident. I even made a promise to my newly born child at that time na I whispered to him na whatever happens, Mama is always be, you will always be in my heart. I will not let this situation, hinders us na mawala yung relationship namin.
对冰儿来说，骨肉分离是上天给她的最重惩罚。
We have to consider the gendered impact of the prison system on everyone because, like it makes a difference if one identifies as a woman or a man. And for women PDL in particular, like they're oftentimes the caregivers or caretakers of family members, whether it's children or other family members. Their incarceration affects their family, especially for their children and for those who also are dependent on them.
除了要忍受和家人分离的煎熬，女受刑人还要面对监狱资源短缺的困境。这里的供水系统非常简陋，他们每天得到集水处打水才有水喝，才能上厕所、洗澡和打扫卫生。至于有水工的居宿舍，则需要用水管将水引导到各个卫生间。
This is how we fill our water with this hose. Because they are full already, we are about to transfer the hose to another unit. Oh, you get it from me? And then like that.
由于大家都共用一条水管，存水成为每天繁琐又费时的差事，所以在这里每一滴水都不可浪费。每个早上也是在厨房工作的受刑人最忙碌的时刻，他们必须确保厨房可以准时出餐。各个宿舍会派代表到厨房外领取厨房配给的餐食，然后再拿回宿舍分发给舍友。
Oh, kanino to laman?
Sa bunso daw yan.
Sa bunso. We usually have our lunch together at around 11:30 so that we can to share our food.
23岁的哈迪林从外省的监狱转来女子惩教所已经1个半月，目前仍在接待与诊断中心接受新生培训。来自棉兰老岛一个小村庄的她，自小和姐姐、弟弟3人由外婆辛苦拉拔长大。16岁那年，哈迪林意外怀孕，生下了女儿。后来，为了要让女儿有更好的生活，他决定远赴海外当帮佣。不过那时他才19岁，而菲律宾政府规定出国当帮佣的女子必须年满21岁。
Sa kaya hindi po ako makaalis nga kasi underage. So, binago po ng recruiter ko yung edad ko para makaalis. Kasi kahit alam ko na po na bawal, tsaka alam kong delikado, kailangan ko rin po talagang makaalis kasi nga walang trabaho yung lola ko. Lola ko po napalaki sa amin kasi single mom ako, wala akong pantusto sa anak ko.
那时，哈迪林持着篡改的护照， 顺利前往沙特阿拉伯工作了2年半，并在履行合约后回返家乡。据统计，在海外工作的菲律宾女性，每10个人就有7个从事清洁工、家务活等初级职业。近年来，菲律宾政府已经把他们出国工作的最低法定年龄从21岁提升到23岁。而今年刚好23岁的哈迪林再次成功申请到海外工作，不过他在出境时却被拦截了。
Hinold po ako kasi nga po may nalaman sila na hindi ko nga daw po totoo hindi ko daw po yung edad tama.
原来哈迪林所使用的是他当初年龄造假的护照，所以护照和他聘书上的个人资料并不吻合。当年的一个抉择，让他如今需要受到法律的制裁。
Nagsisisi ka ba na pumayag kang palitan yung edad?
Hindi naman po. Nung nag-abroad po ako, natulungan ko po yung pamilya ko kahit papaano. So sabi ko, kaya siguro ako nandito kasi pinapapahinga po ako ng yun po.
This place is very, very memorable to me because this is the place who had helped me how to survive for the first 10 years of my life here in Correctional.
冰儿的监狱生涯一路走来并不轻松。来自外省的她，以前只会讲家乡话，所以初到监狱时和其他受刑人难以沟通，只能积极学习他家陆语。同时，她还得为3个孩子的生活费操心，因为她的阿姨根本没有经济能力抚养他们。
I really don't know at the time what I am going to do. And there is only one hope that give me at the time, my kids. And most especially the one I bore inside the prison. The thinking na yung experience of that child, paglaki, yun ang nag-give sa akin ng hope and motivation to be strong.
为了孩子，冰儿前10年每天起早摸黑为其他受刑人洗衣，把赚来的血汗钱全汇回家。
Most of us at a very early, around 5:30, after we finish the first counting in our dorm, we actually go here na. Because if you're slow, if you're late, there will be no water.
"如今，冰儿的孩子都已踏入社会做事，她不再需要帮人洗衣，但是狱中仍然有许多其他受刑人靠洗衣挣钱养家。
One thing that's unique in the prison here in the Philippines is the women oftentimes earn a living from prison. For those who are supporting their family members, even with limited resources, they continued to do so because they didn't want their incarceration to keep them from serving in their capacity as a parent.
"目前，监狱也有开设各种生计培训班，让受刑人出狱后有一技之长，同时又可以在监狱里赚点生活费。
We have reformation programs here. We have education and training, work and livelihood, sports and recreation, health and welfare, and religious and moral. For our livelihood program, they undergo skills training. They make bags out of beads. They weave rugs. They do dressmaking and all others. These products, we actually sell them. We also give them the labor cost.
This is an art procedure using eggshells to create a design.
这里的其中一个培训课程就是卡片制作。女受刑人可以从课程中学到各种不同的制作技巧，而穿着班长制服的资深受刑人就是开办这个课程的推手。
I'm Malu. I've been here going 29 years. I was recruiting illegally, so that's why I was sentenced for life.
受过高等教育的美露非常热衷于教学，曾经在美国开设日托中心。她在90年代初入狱，当时监狱没有正规的教育课程，她希望让不识字的受刑人有机会念书，于是去会见了监狱的教育长官。
I shared my ideas to the education head, and she is willing to try it. We started like 15 to 20 students in different levels, and we have only 2 teachers at the time. After a couple of years, we again extended and extended. So now, education in correctional, it is a quality education. We were able to tie up with Department of Education, including the Vocational Technical School.
目前，美露每星期教课3天，每堂课限制最多20名学生。
They're not only learning, but they are earning at the same time. Earning, meaning to say, if there are visitors coming here, we can present it to them, and if they like it and they want to order, we can go ahead and place the order and we can sell it.
I start making card past August. I really enjoy making card. For past 4 years, I have managed to sell more than 100 cards.
I have my vision and my mission to teach others. I'm very happy because most of our enrollees here are really interested to learn. Very good. Very good. And you? Bakery.
来自宿务市的美露出生于富裕家庭，婚后移居美国。之后，为了子女的教育，一家人又搬回菲律宾。当年，美露没事就会到住家楼下的旅行社串门子，偶尔还会帮忙接待客人。后来，因为旅行社涉及无牌招聘当地人到海外工作，警方上门查办时，将美露也一起拘捕。
They found an evidence against me. It's a receipt from the complainant. I'm not working, I was just helping, and I never realized that it's illegal. Innocence of the crime excuses no one.
近数十年来，菲律宾贪污问题严重，经济长久萧条，许多菲律宾人不得不到国外寻找出路。据统计，目前大约有196万菲律宾人在海外工作，这造就了一个庞大的海外就业市场，非法招聘行为也应运而生。在菲律宾，非法招聘等同于人口贩卖，是重罪。从一个富太太沦为阶下囚，美露的世界完全颠倒了过来。她花了1年的时间调试自己，来适应监狱的生活。
It's very hard to accept things, but because you are already here, so it's a matter of just follow the flow and don't disobey. So otherwise you have a record. I'm avoiding that to have bad records.
时间一晃，美露已经在最高警戒区待了将近30年。围墙内的这个世界犹如一个自治的小社区，这里虽然没有购物商场，却有一个由受刑人管理的消费区。 可以在这里买到一般商品和服务。惩教所允许每名受刑人拥有最多2000比索的现金，相等于46新元。手头较为宽松的美露，偶尔会花钱宠宠自己。
Correctional institution for women is known for the way people treat the women in a more humanitarian way as compared to other penitentiaries. Complied with prison rules and regulations. They didn't have to stay cooped up in their dormitories, or they weren't subjected to solitary confinement unless they committed infractions in the disciplinary system of the prison.
这里的惩教宗旨在于让受刑人能在一定的限制下过常人的生活，同时接受改造。只要遵守法则，他们可以在区内自由活动。
This is dorm 6 where I live. There are 96 PDLs in this dormitory.
6号宿舍是惩教所里典型的集体宿舍，拥挤、闷热、不通风。里面的双层床，床面是一般单人床的大小，上下铺都各睡2人。由于没有储存空间，受刑人的私人物品不是摆床上，就是塞床底。宿舍后面是一个开放式卫生间，里面只有4个简单的马桶，平时洗澡需要按照排表。
That's my bed there. This is where my things are. It is my safe where I keep my valuables. So I have my purse in there, right here.
美露是宿舍里少数可以拥有单人床铺的人，不过她床铺上角的天花板雨天会漏水，她不得不把多年来累积的私人物品叠放在床上，使原本不大的睡觉空间变更小了。女子惩教所当初建造时是以容纳1000人为设计标准，如今这里却住了3300多人，比原有的设想多出了3倍，已经到了人满为患的地步。
Every month, we are admitting like an average of 63 PDLs. So the volume is getting bigger, yet the facility, it remains. We have construction, but it's not yet done. That's why at the moment it's still congested. We don't have a space wherein it is not used every hour of the day.
要在这么拥挤的环境下，让受刑人们可以拥有一定的活动空间，同时兼顾监狱的秩序，对监狱管理层来说是一大挑战。除了全天候的闭路电视监控，监狱四周都有持枪的警卫驻守，每个活动场所也会有1名监狱官监督。这里维持秩序的另一个主要措施是每天5次的排队报数。执勤的监狱官会到自己负责的宿舍点算人数。
We do regular head counting to check that there's no escape and no violent activities or injuries among them.
Okay, family, meron po tayong issue. Unit by unit, ah. Fall in line dito.
今天， 监狱派发毛巾给所有受刑人。身为居宿舍的宿舍长，宾尔必须维持宿舍的秩序，确保每一个舍友都得到毛巾。
Thank you po. Thank you po.
I acted as a big sister. We have our dorm regulations. So I was the one in charge as their overseer on how they behave, on how they act on our regulations like this. And we also give them their sanctions if ever they are not going to follow the rules.
这是监狱采用的一种以囚治囚的管理模式，由受刑人们选出自己信服的一位大姐当宿舍长，掌管他们宿舍每天的起居事项。
At CIW, we are understaffed. So we cannot actually oversee every minute of what's going on with the PDL. That's why there are dorm in charge. These dorm in charge are actually PDLs too, but they have higher integrity. Even if we are not around, they are the one who maintain the peace and order among them inside the cells.
Ready?
Good morning, ma'am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
身为宿舍长，宾尔平时也要留意舍友的去向。当监狱官前来点算人数时，他才可以清楚交代不在场舍友的位置。
53. Our locator chart shows the places where the PDLs are going through in a day. This chart is most used while we are doing our counting.
原来每一个宿舍都有一个定位表，而每一个受刑人都有属于自己的钥匙扣。每次外出，必须用钥匙扣标明自己要去的地点，宿舍长就可以掌握他们的去向。中午报数过后，所有受刑人都必须留在各自的宿舍内午休，直到下午1点后才能外出。这些年，美露的日子过得很朴实。对于外面的世界，她选择不去想，所以没有眷念。唯一让她无法释怀的是，她不能在家人需要她的时候陪在他们身边。
The worst part that I experienced in my life, losing a son. My only son, he met an accident that is very hard to accept. But I didn't shed any tears. And another one, my husband passed away. They're both in America, away from me. And what can I do? Nothing. My daughter called me up and I said, Natasha, be calm. All you got to do is pray and be thankful that nothing happened to you. If I lost you, so I'd be alone.
美露很庆幸女儿没有沉浸在悲伤中，还顺利完成了大学学业。如今，女儿已结婚生子，拥有自己的家庭。美露只盼望可以早日获得假释，远赴美国，跟女儿和素未谋面的外孙团聚。
My inspiration in life, my daughter and my grandson, and nothing more.
菲律宾的监狱体制实施良好行为减刑措施，行为良好的受刑人可以累积分数，折抵刑期，提早出狱或假释。
The GCTA is usually given to all of them without any specification. If you just follow the rules and regulations of the prison, you receive that GCTA.
Then I have a check with you.
美露一向来循规蹈矩，又积极参与教学，累积的良好行为分数已达到可以假释的标准。目前正通过律师申请假释。今天是哈迪林离开接待与诊断中心的日子，他将被派遣到中等警戒附属区的6号宿舍。在离开中心之前，他必须换上中等警戒区的蓝色囚服。
I have a lot of friends in RDC. I'm gonna miss them.
这次，有另外3名新受刑人和哈迪林一起转去6号宿舍。在踏出中心的那一刻起，他们正式开启了他们在监狱的漫长生活。中等警戒附属区位于最高警戒区的一个角落，是中等警戒区满员后开辟出来的新区。
This is our DIC. I am your secretary. So meron tayong house rules. Ang unang-una, meron tayong morning prayer every 5 o'clock in the morning. So
新来乍到，宿舍长和秘书为哈迪林等新人讲解宿舍的日常规则。
this is our comfort room or restroom where you're going to have your shower, where you're going to wash your dishes, and this is where you're going to put your pails of water.
6号宿舍才启用1个多月，设备新，但还是很基本，马桶仍然没有抽水功能。受刑人得去集水处集水，才能在这里洗澡、如厕。哈迪林被分配到的床位位于宿舍左侧的前排，这是他在进入女子惩教所后的第1张床铺。
This is what I expected for, and I have my own bed, and my expectation is good, and maybe I can have another friends. 这一天是星期4，是最高警戒区居宿舍的探监日。冰儿的小儿子诺诺将会来探监，冰儿特别兴奋。这将是他们23年来第5次会面。自从诺诺出生后被送走，冰儿再见到他时，他已经15岁。
Because at that time, one of our local government had a project here in the institution, the Idalaw. We had our Skype before. So it was the first time that I was able to see my youngest child. And of course my family, because they were not able to visit me.
由于家人之前都住在外省，来探监需要舟车劳顿和大笔旅费，冰儿长久以来只能和他们用电话联系。不过去年底，2个儿子都来马尼拉讨生活，探监不再那么遥不可及。当年还在襁褓中就和母亲分开的诺诺，虽然从小有姨婆和家人的呵护，但每次看到其他孩子身边有父母陪伴时，难免还是会难过。
Tapos pag tulad ng mga graduation ganon, syempre may mga parents. Tapos nung time na sa akin walang naka-attend doon kasi busy din yung ko. Wala rin nagmamarcha sa akin, kaya naisip ko lang parang.
不过懂事的他没有怨恨母亲。
Tsaka wala naman po akong alam kung ginagawa niya yun para sa amin. Wala. Hindi naman po sa ganyan.
探监时间分为早午2个时段，每个时段只有2个小时。访客可以带食物和受刑人需要的日用品进入探监厅。
Plenty of food, ah.
Ay, wala akong kabakal ka noon.
Wala tayo rice. Amo na lang nanay kanina. Ah,
冰儿很重视每一次的探访，每次都会自备餐具、饮料，甚至水果。
I need to bring everything so that we can enjoy our time together. Because we are only given short period of time. And also, I want to act also as a mother. You want to serve your children.
无论是在电话里或是见面，冰儿的话题永远围绕在孩子身上。就算是聊到监狱的生活，她也只是报喜不报忧。
That each time I shared to them, I did not share the burden. All they know was that I'm okay, I'm strong enough, that for me to be able to inspire them and for them to don't feel a self-pity, I have to wear a mask in front of them.
其实，诺诺很清楚，他们兄弟姐妹3人的生活和教育费都是母亲辛苦张罗来的，否则他们不可能有钱升学。
Ginawa na lang namin inspiration para magtapos ng pag-aaral. Yun na lang po yung way na magiging proud din siya sa amin.
2个小时很快就过去，又是离别的时刻。没有家人探监的受刑人，则通过电话一解思念之苦。受刑人但凡要和外界沟通，必须通过监狱提供的本地或长途电话服务，费用根据通话时长计算。服务处从早上9点开放到下午3点，在这段时间里，监狱四周不断会听到电话的接驳声。
Yes, hello, Natasha. It's Mommy. How are you, Tash? Tash, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Tash, you know, I'm very, very sure I could be out soon. Okay? I'll let you know once I'm...
美露每星期会给在美国加州的女儿打2次电话，了解她的近况。
International Airport.
Wow, that's great. You're working at... I feel good because you get a good job. She's working at International Airport now. So I'm so happy. I'm so blessed. Even I'm not around, she's taking care of herself. So it's great. Thank you, Doris. Okay.
Every night before I go to sleep, I miss my family, especially my daughter.
I'm thinking of going back to America. I have to join my daughter and to take care of my grandson.
I am now qualified to go out this year. That's the most important thing for me, to be reunited with my family,